I am the cat raised by Harrison. Because his white moonlight is allergic to cat fur, he won't allow me to revert to my original form. It's been so long since I last groomed myself, and just when I finally tried to sneak a lick, his white moonlight suddenly came to his house. Harrison coldly grabbed me by the scruff of my neck and threw me out. Some stray cat that snuck in from who knows where. I threw it out. The rain was heavy that day, and my freshly groomed fur was soaked and covered in yellow mud. I sat in the rain, not knowing where to wander. Such a pitiful sight. Little kitty, come home with me. Later, while I was enjoying salmon in my new home, I heard that Harrison had gone crazy looking for a cat. Don't turn back into a cat recently. You've been shedding quite a bit of fur. Harrison took off his suit jacket and threw it into the trash without hesitation. I, who was grooming myself, awkwardly put my raised foot down. I glanced down at the fur on my body. It had been a while since I last groomed, and some of it had even started to form mats. Harrison has changed. Before, when he came back, he would hug me, groom my fur, notice my claws had grown, and trim them for me. But now, after sitting on the sofa, his gaze is fixed on his phone, and a faint smile occasionally appears at the corner of his mouth. He seems happy, but not because of me. However, when I leap up and run to his side, Harrison immediately turns off his phone, and the sweet, pleasant scent around him instantly turns bitter. Didn't I ask you to turn back into a human? I have a business partner who's allergic to cat hair. I lifted my front paw toward him, wanting him to see how long my claws had gotten. It had been a long time since he last trimmed them for me. If you can turn into a human, isn't it a bit lazy to still ask me to trim your claws? You should try to integrate into human society a bit more. His phone suddenly rang. He glanced at the caller ID, then got up and went aside to answer the call. I stared at his back, my face full of disappointment, even my tail drooping in low spirits. 3 years ago, he picked up the injured me and brought me home, taking care of me meticulously. He would even take me out in a cat carrier, gently reaching out to stroke my head. He said to me, whatever other kittens have, our Mimi will have too, and whatever other kittens don't have, our Mimi will still have. I was deeply moved, so I repaid him with a level of obedience that other cats don't have, showing an unprecedented level of good behavior. Everyone envied him for raising such an exceptionally well-behaved cat. Later, once, he got drunk and had a minor car accident, returned home covered in blood and completely drunk. What a pitiful man. I had just taken human form, so I wiped his face, helped him to bed, and found iodine to treat his wounds. I also cooked him some plain rice porridge. When Harrison sobered up and saw me, he was shocked and astonished. I was holding the bowl of plain congee and said to him, Mimi worked so hard to make this for you. Why is it that people become so cold all of a sudden? The litter box has been put away, the cat tree has been dismantled, and even the scratching post is gone. Next, is it time to get rid of me, the cat? My partner is in a bit of trouble right now. I need to go pick her up. You? Never mind, just go sleep outside for the night. I just looked at him without saying a word, but Harrison had already lost the patience to coax me. Be good, I still have to clean up the cat hair you've been shedding everywhere. I got off the couch and walked out without looking back, watching Harrison call the cleaning team to come over. He practically had the entire house renovated. Afterward, he came in with his arm around the woman's waist. I've seen her photo, Susan. Harrison's white moonlight, her face was flushed, her consciousness hazy, with one arm hooked around Harrison's neck, and she kept squirming in the man's embrace. But after a short while, she suddenly started sneezing. Harrison, do you have a cat at your place? She asked, sneezing with teary eyes. Harrison supported her, his gaze searching around, and suddenly locked eyes with me, who was hiding in a secluded corner. I didn't really mean to come back on purpose, but it started raining outside, and there was a strong wind. This neighborhood doesn't have any place where I can sleep for the night. I just went out for a walk. The property management and security guards came after me with a big net, so I got scared and ran back in a hurry. As soon as I got back, I sat in the corner, trying to curl up into a ball, with my head drooping. The next second, I was picked up by the scruff of my neck by Harrison. Oh my, how did a cat get in here? Susan shrieked, covering her mouth as she sneezed and coughed. Probably a stray cat that got into the complex. I'll just throw it out. Harrison opened the door and threw me out, just as the property manager arrived at the entrance with a large net. What's wrong with your management? How did a stray cat get in here? It must be a residence cat that got out. Sorry for the trouble. This fur is all dirty, and the nails are so long. How could it not be a stray cat? I happened to be thrown into a small puddle by Harrison, and the muddy water dirted my fur, so I just sat there in a daze. Throughout the whole process, Harrison didn't even glance at me. I was indeed a pet cat owned by a resident before, but now I'm a stray. My hind foot was in pain, but I didn't hesitate for a moment. I leaped and plunged into the greenery, running aimlessly through the rain. It wasn't until the stinging pain in my hind foot became unbearable that I stopped and realized a shard of glass had pierced my leg, blood streaming down. The sky gradually darkened, and the rain grew heavier. I limped along, letting the rain beat down on me, unsure of where to wander. I was wandering before, just stayed at a human's home for 3 years. However, I lowered my head and suddenly felt an obstacle in front of me. So I stopped. The rain seemed to be blocked by something. I saw a pair of black leather shoes and looked up. That man, wearing a suit, was standing in the middle of the road holding an umbrella like a lunatic. The next second, he picked me up, those fox-like eyes narrowed slightly, and that handsome face. I had seen it before. He was Harrison's arch-rival. Charles, do you know what the language of a stray cat is? He reached out and ruffled my wet hair. Come home with me, you little mess. Humans are fickle, quick to turn animals. I won't make the same mistake again. So, I meowed at him fiercely, using the kind of language that was really foul. While cursing, I also struggled vigorously, trying to break free from the restraints. The more I struggled, the more blood flowed from my hind leg. It was utterly futile, only worsening my injuries and exhausting myself. His claws dug into the shirt on his chest, even piercing through the fabric and into his flesh. Yet he never let go of me. What a tough person. The little kitten can't win. The rain in the sky is getting heavier and heavier, its pitter-patter sound echoing across the land, but at the moment the door closed, it shut out all the noise outside. My rain-soaked fur clings tightly to my body, and even a gentle breeze makes me shiver uncontrollably. Charles wasn't much better off either. His shirt had a tear on the left side from my claws, and the right side was covered in pulled threads. He was not only soaked all over, some areas were also stained with blood. It was clear that I had scratched him until he bled. I lowered my head and let out a soft meow at him. I'm sorry. He was bearing the brunt of my frustration. Humans may be fickle and quick to change their attitude, but I suddenly remembered encountering him outside before, at the little shelter humans set up for cats, where he had added food, fixed the jammed food dispenser, and cleaned up, not just once, maybe, just now. He saw a little kitten like me getting drenched in the rain and kindly picked me up. Just as I was lost in my thoughts, I was suddenly wrapped up in a large, soft towel. Avoiding the injured area, Charles was helping me soak up the water and dry my fur. It might hurt a bit, bear with it. My heel was held by Charles, and although the sensation made me uncomfortable and I wanted to kick, I knew he was helping me treat the wound. I could still bear it when the glass shard stuck in my hind leg was removed, but the moment the cotton ball soaked in iodine touched the wound, I really couldn't take it anymore. The front paws pads instantly spread open, revealing sharp claws, but I couldn't move recklessly. I had no choice but to howl loudly on the spot. Meow, 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 meow. Damn Harrison. If it weren't for him, I wouldn't be in such a mess. If you didn't want to keep me, you should have just said so. Instead of messing around and hurting a little cat's feelings, wait until I'm better. All right, all right. Charles kept comforting me, but I was still cursing and meowing angrily, feeling both furious and wronged. I didn't even realize the man had carried me straight back to the room. It wasn't until I finished scolding that I realized the cat had entered the most private place for humans, the bedroom. Charles placed me on the soft carpet and then, right in front of the cat, took off his wet clothes. And it was right in front of me. My originally round eyes widened even more. Harrison never liked me going into his bedroom before, and even after he took human form, I only went in to take care of him when he was drunk, let alone changing clothes in front of me. At most, he'd just loosen his tie and unbutton a couple of buttons. He doesn't treat me like an outsider, though. He strips everything off in no time. The man has a robust physique, and the streaks of blood I scratched across his tall, firm chest add a touch of wild beauty to him. His back is broad and strong, with well-defined, tight abdominal muscles, and every muscle is solid and powerful. Indeed, admiring beauty is the best and quickest remedy to overcome sadness. Charles picked up a cotton ball and was lowering his head to apply medicine to his wound. I dragged my limping hind leg, slowly moving to his feet, and looked up closely to check if his wound was okay. Now you know how sharp your claws are. I lowered my cat head. Seeing those nails that hadn't been trimmed for a long time, and a wave of bitterness welled up inside me, I simply lay down right there, tucking both paws into my chest to hide them. After transforming into human form, I actually noticed that my nails were very long, but I didn't trim them myself, which owned cat doesn't have their owner coaxing and begging to trim their nails. Why should I have to do it myself? So I just left them as they were. Watching my nails grow longer and my fur become more and more unkempt, Charles changed into a different set of pajamas, came back to my side, crouched down to pat my head, and then fed me a small dried fish. This dried fish is so fragrant. Lost in sorrow, I chew and chew. I was picked up again. He clipped my nails very quickly. Snip, snip, snip. I paused my movement and looked up at him. Charles glanced at me, and in the moment he nodded at me. He clipped the nails of my other paw with a few snips. So well behaved, truly the best little cat, Charles praised while trimming my back paws. I sat on the blanket, watching him carefully trim my nails, and meowed at him. What's wrong? I meowed again. My heart felt a bit sour and emotional, and I just wanted to meow meaninglessly. Did I hurt you? I'll be gentler then. After he finishes trimming my nails, he'll take out a small comb to groom my fur. Long time no see. Once again, the feeling of being held in the palm of someone's hand. It was already late at night when Charles went to bed. The rain showed no sign of letting up at the moment. Even with all the windows closed, the howling wind can still be heard. I transformed from a cat into a human, and the medical bandage wrapped around my hind leg tore and snapped open as my body grew larger. Looking at the man lying on the bed, I ran to the bay window without hesitation, turned the window handle, and prepared to jump out. Raindrops drifted in with the wind, splashing against my face. He is a good person, but I still won't repeat the same mistake. Just as I was about to leave, my keen ears detected a change in Charles's breathing. His breathing suddenly became heavy and rapid. It seems like he has a fever. Back when I was a stray, I heard an old cat at the pet clinic say, humans can be quite fragile sometimes. If they get caught in the rain, they catch a cold and get a fever. If they get scratched by us cats and don't treat the wound in time, they can also get a fever. Then they turn into babbling fools. He got caught in the rain today and was scratched by me. That's a double whammy. As a cat with a bit of conscience, I can't just let him turn into a fool. So I closed the window and walked over to the bed. The closer I got, the more I could hear his heavy breathing. Reached out and placed a hand on his forehead. The temperature was so high it could burn a cat's paw. He really has a fever, Charles's hoarse voice murmured indistinctly. Water. I instinctively ran to the spot in the bedroom where the water kettle was placed and poured him a cup of warm water. I had intended to shake him awake, but it suddenly occurred to me that Harrison had treated me fairly well before he knew I could transform into a human. However, after he found out I could become human, he started being hot and cold, his emotions unstable. Although Charles took me home, dried my fur, trimmed my nails, and applied medicine, we are still just strangers. Although you are a good person, I still have to leave. I placed the water on the bedside table and decided to use the skills of our cat clan as a way to repay him for saving my life. A cat's saliva, after cultivating into human form, has the ability to accelerate the healing of wounds. I unbuttoned Charles's pajamas, revealing his well-built chest, and looked at the wound that had already been treated with medicine. Taking a deep breath, I began to lick it gently. What kind of ointment is this? It's so bitter. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Spitting while licking. Some spots were hard to reach, so I simply sat on him, licking earnestly and diligently. Halfway through, I noticed Charles's breathing had become heavier. His body felt even hotter, and there was something like a rod poking my butt. I started to panic. What's going on? Why is there negative feedback? I didn't even revert to my original form to lick, afraid that fur might fall into the wound and cause a secondary infection. The more I lick, the hotter it gets. My little cat tongue is about to get burned by him. The water that was originally poured for him ended up all in my stomach. However, the effect was quite remarkable. At least half of the wounds were healing at an astonishing speed. Let's press on and keep up the momentum. Just as I was about to continue, someone suddenly pressed the back of my head. me.Later. This time, my face was pressed directly against their chest. I had to struggle desperately myself, but I still couldn't break free, because Charles suddenly turned over and pinned me down on the bed. He didn't seem fully conscious, with one hand holding me down and the other actually stroking my face. Have you come into my dream again? Meow, meow, meow. Upon hearing Charles's words, I expressed my doubt. Holding me so tightly, I can hardly breathe. But I'm not just any random cat, you know. I was just about to give him a set of meow meow punches, but my hands were raised over my head and pinned down, and my legs were firmly clamped. I immediately thought of transforming into a cat and making a great escape. But I tried my best. I tried a little harder. Oh no, I can't turn back now. Meow, not only that, but I also feel like I'm about to die. Wah wah wah, even with him holding me with one hand. I can't break free. Am I going to be the first cat to be hugged to death by a human? Just when I thought I was really going to die, Charles finally let me breathe, but his relaxation towards me was only enough to let me breathe. He seems to have fallen asleep again, trapping me like arresting a criminal, and then falling asleep, trying to pull the hand raised above my head back. I realized that whenever I moved, his hand would automatically tighten. Some people look like they're asleep. The hand can even control others on its own. Failed to turn back into a cat, failed to withdraw my hand. I can only lie here with my eyes open, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sound of the rain outside. My mind wanders from one thought to another. I wonder if Charles will be so startled when he wakes up tomorrow that he jumps out of bed. Charles's body temperature seems to have dropped, and it feels just right now. Instead of overthinking, it's better to get some sleep first. I thought I wouldn't be able to fall asleep, because this was the first time in 3 years that I had left Harrison's villa, the home I had lived in for 3 years. I thought I wouldn't miss Harrison either, even though he was hot and cold with me and wasn't a very good owner. Not long ago, he even wanted the cat to be with him forever, but then suddenly changed his mind. But it seems I still miss him a little. Even so, it doesn't stop me from sleeping soundly and cozily in Charles's arms. In my dream, I saw a swarm of dried fish rushing toward me. I grabbed one from the east and chewed it happily, then took a bite from the west and felt delighted. After all the hustle and bustle, I still love dried fish the most, but as I kept chewing, I realized the dried fish was too hard, and I couldn't bite through it. Interesting, I haven't chewed on such a tough fish jerky in a long time. So I mustered all my strength and was about to bite down hard when my mouth was suddenly clamped shut by a strong force. If you bite down with that much force, you'll tear the flesh right off your chest. I heard someone speaking close to my ear, their warm breath making it tingle. I rubbed my ear with my paw, but all the fish jerky had disappeared. My dried fish. Before I even opened my eyes, I was already cursing. Harrison, what are you doing? I could clearly feel the other person's body tremble. When I opened my eyes, I realized it wasn't Harrison, it was Charles. Yesterday, Harrison threw me out for his white moonlight. The property management even chased me with a large net, but Charles carried me back home. A hint of disappointment flickered in his eyes. Did I disappoint you? Do you want me to take you back? Charles asked me with a faint smile. No, how can he be so calm and natural? Isn't it terrifying to suddenly have a beautiful girl appear in your bed? I looked at him and blinked. You're so calm. This can't be your first time, can it? Charles raised an eyebrow. What? I mean, you often wake up to find a beautiful girl in your bed. That's why you're so calm. Ew. I never expected the human who usually cleans and feeds the cat to be like this in private. I made a disgusted face, sat up, and slowly moved away. I'm not. MHM. I nodded perfunctorily and then moved even farther away. I heard Harrison say it to someone. At his words, my movement came to a halt. Is this Harrison telling everyone about it? What if they catch me and take me for research? I thought that by doing so many good deeds, I had finally moved the cat god, who sent me a fairy cat, but it turns out the cat devotee didn't receive any favor. I could sense the disappointment emanating from Charles and pursed my lips. Don't be so down. You'll have a cat someday. Yesterday, I groomed the cat and trimmed its nails so efficiently, with such an excellent cat owner, who would worry about not having a cat. Even if Harrison treated you poorly and let the cat down, would you still go back to him? I am going back, but it's to get revenge. So, how do you plan to get back at him? After thinking for a moment, I put my hands on my hips and said fiercely, of course, I'll chew up his sofa and charging cables. I'll pee on his bed and wipe my butt on his pillow. After hearing this, Charles shook his head. Such revenge is nothing but a minor annoyance to a human. He has servants at home. At most, they'll just switch to another room and buy new things. I was just about to say, then let's go back. Charles seemed to have read my mind, and he added, if you go back, they might just call the property management and have them waiting for you at home. As soon as he mentioned property management, I thought of the big net from last night. If I were caught, it would indeed be terrifying. If I were to transform into a human in front of so many people, I would definitely be captured and taken away for research. Well, do you have any good ideas? He is Harrison's arch-rival. After all, Harrison often says that the person who knows you best is your enemy. Maybe he can give me some good advice. If you want to follow the human way of revenge, then live a better life than him. Let him know that without him, you are even happier and more joyful. After hearing his advice, I nodded thoughtfully. Is that so? Then I'll work hard to hunt every day and be self-reliant. I'll show Harrison that I can live just fine without his dried fish, freeze-dried treats, and canned cat food. Charles smiled and leaned slightly toward me. But from a human perspective, if he sees it, he'll just think you're living a pitiful life without him. Me, are human minds really that strange? Then what do you suggest we do? This won't work, and that won't work either. How about I become your new cat owner? My family background and status are even better than Harrison's. Even if he sees you, he won't be able to mock you. But what if you end up like Harrison, forgetting about the cat once you see someone attractive? Some cats like to conquer the world, while others prefer the same old routine. But the environment remains unchanged, and so do people. How fickle human hearts are. At this moment, Charles sighed. I have a secret to share with you. A secret? My ears perked up. Curiosity is a universal trait, so I stared at him eagerly, waiting to hear what the secret was. I had an accident before, and my perception of joy, anger, sorrow, and happiness became extremely weak, almost to the point of non-existence. I've seen many doctors, but none of them could help. They just advised me to relax and try to get closer to anything that might spark even the slightest bit of emotion in me. So over the years, I've been like an emotionless, cold machine, yet I couldn't let anyone notice. I kept pretending to laugh, pretending to be a normal person. That sounds so tragic. I had no idea at all, even though I was in contact with him. He faked it so well. He must have gone through a lot. I reached out and patted his arm, trying to comfort him. I've tried many times, and only once, while feeding a cat, I saw a fairy-like cat from a distance, but unfortunately, she already had an owner. I want to grasp this faint perception, so I often go to see it, but the owner is so mean that it makes me, the peeper, feel an emotion called anger. So, that fairy-like cat might become my salvation. By the time Charles finished speaking, I already knew that he was talking about me. I scratched my head, feeling a bit embarrassed. I'm not really as you say, am I? But, if I can be of help, I'm glad. Suddenly, he gave me a big hug. Thank you, the world really can't do without cats. Oops, he's so good with words. I can hardly suppress the smile on my face. After I agreed to him, I could clearly feel that Charles was overflowing with joy. Paused, propping up his chin, lost in thought. Could it be that I also have the ability to save others? For the next few days, Charles didn't even go to work. He booked a top grooming specialist to come to my home and give me a premium spa treatment for my fur, and he stood expressionless next to the groomer. His face was quite intimidating when he wasn't smiling. The groomer's hand holding the scissors was trembling a little. Meow. I meowed at him, my round eyes glaring at Charles, telling him to stop. What if the groomer's hand slips and cuts me? Charles didn't say anything, just took out his phone and started taking pictures of me. Seeing this, the groomer seemed to relax a lot, letting out a long sigh of relief. He murmured very softly, a CEO who deals in billions per minute can't resist the charm of a cat either. The groomer's skills are excellent. They quickly cleaned up my originally messy fur and some loose hairs. It's like a complete transformation. When it comes to bathing, I still feel a bit resistant. The groomer, seeing Charles standing at the bathroom door, mustered the courage to ask, Mr. Charles, would you like to come in and learn some bathing techniques? Next time, you could try bathing the cat yourself. It might also help strengthen your bond. What? Let Charles bathe me? How can this be? I meowed while shaking my head, but to the groomer, it just looked like I was happily shaking off water, and they even misinterpreted my meaning. See, the kitten really wants you to come over too. I never said that. Bad review. Fortunately, Charles refused. No need, you can just wash it. Girls get shy. After he finished speaking, he left the bathroom. After the groomer finished blow-drying my fur, they packed up and left. Charles pushed a lot of pretty little dresses in front of me. These dresses are all 2-in-1. You can wear them when you're human, and you can wear the same ones when you're a cat. My eyes were glued to those beautiful little dresses. What girl doesn't love cute and pretty dresses? Of course, I'm no exception. But Harrison never prepared those for me. Later, when I was to be turned into a human, most of the dresses chosen for me were white, saying that white looks good my foot, so every time I transform, I turn my fur into a dress, refusing to wear white at all costs. Harrison always says my calico fur dress doesn't look good. Damn it, just thinking about it makes me angry. Does he even know that us calico cats are the beauty queens of the feline world? Why are you making that face? Don't you like it? I'm sorry. Charles apologized to me very straightforwardly. No, I really like it. Thank you. It's only been a few days, and you've already gathered so many little dresses. You must have put a lot of effort into this. I leaped into his arms in one swift motion and pointed at the pale yellow gradient cat dress with my paw, saying, "Help me put it on." Looking up, I noticed Charles's Adam's apple bob, and a flicker of heat flashed in his eyes. But his hands didn't move at all. Just as I was debating whether to transform back into human form and put it on myself, I heard him struggle to utter a single word. Okay, putting on a pretty little dress. I headed straight to Charles's bedroom on the second floor, because there's a full-length mirror in the walk-in closet of his room. I twirled a few times in front of the mirror and meowed happily. It's been a long time since I've been this happy. When Harrison first brought me home, I was injured and couldn't transform into human form. At that time, the risks of wandering outside were very high. He provided me with a place to recover, so naturally, he didn't mind whether he was good to me or not. Later, it was he who said he wanted to take care of me, showering me with sweet words. He bought me a cat bed and some toys. Although he doesn't play with me, I know he works hard to make money. Just thinking about Harrison still makes a small corner of my heart ache a little. The little kitten lowered its head in front of the mirror, even its whiskers looking somewhat droopy. What's wrong? Charles placed his hand on my head, his palm warm as he gently patted me. Although wearing a beautiful dress, with trimmed fur and nails, my mind still thinks of Harrison. Charles patted me gently. It's normal, everyone gets nostalgic, you'll forget slowly, but you can't just tidy up your feelings and start a new life in just a few days. I nodded in agreement. So, can you take me back? Before I even finished saying this, I could sense the feeling of disappointment. I didn't even dare to breathe and quickly finished my words. I still want to finish pooping and then rub it all over his pillow. But biting the sofa or something like that, forget it, it's too hard on the teeth. Although Charles's face didn't change at all, the aura he emitted slowly shifted from bitter to sweet. I just felt your emotional fluctuation. Is it better now? Yes. Just now when you said you were leaving, I could clearly feel the fluctuation, but I don't think it's better. It seems more like it was triggered by you. I see. I thoughtfully scratched my ear with my paw. Take me there first, and when I come back, we can study it slowly, because I can't hold it in any longer. Charles took me there and parked near Harrison's villa to wait for me. He wanted to move a bit further, but I stopped him. He was up to no good, and his car was so close. What if Harrison tried to pin something on him? I leaped into the lawn, made sure no one was inside, and then skillfully opened the door. When I got to Harrison's room, I found a woman's nightgown thrown on the bed. It seems that my absence these past few days hasn't caused Harrison the slightest bit of worry. In fact, he's been happily sleeping with another woman. Humph, no matter, I've also been sleeping in the arms of a handsome man these days. By the time I left the Harrison residence and rushed into the car, not as happy as imagined, but listlessly slumped in the passenger seat, when Charles picked me up again, the fur around my eyes was soaked with tears. Wawa, you have no idea how awful it was, throwing me into a puddle, and these past few days, he's been sleeping with some woman. He didn't even think to look for me. He was the one who said he'd take care of me, but as soon as his white moonlight came back, he just abandoned me. Humans are all terrible, awful creatures. It was me who saved him when he was completely drunk and nearly drowned in the toilet. I even cooked porridge for him, wiped his face, and waited obediently at home for him every day. Humans who betray a cat's affection. I cursed in human language for a long time, but still felt unsatisfied. So I let out a round of meows. Failure, what a failure of a cat's life. If other cats found out that I licked a human like a dog, only to be heartlessly thrown out like trash in the end, I might as well just die. I'm sorry you had to see that, I said, rubbing my eyes with my paw and looking at Charles, who had been comforting me. Cats never have to say sorry. I will do better than him. I straightened up from his embrace, stretching out long, and my cat head just reached to kiss his chin. Thank you for comforting me. Charles was taken aback at first, then gave me a smile. Could you do me a favor? I nodded. Of course. Could you put on a human dress and kiss me one more time? Don't get me wrong. It's just that when you kissed me, I seemed to feel some emotional fluctuations. But I can't exactly press a little kitten down to confirm this. Can I, if I accidentally get caught? The news that I'm a pervert will be known to everyone by tomorrow. Oh. Then wait for me a moment. I jumped out of his arms and ran back to the room to change my clothes. Charles had the part-time housekeeper clear out a space in his walk-in closet. I hung all my dresses, big and small, on it. This time, I chose an orange lace princess dress adorned with colorful pom-poms. After putting it on, I twirled in front of the mirror as usual, couldn't resist playing with the pom-poms for a while, and only then remembered I needed to go downstairs. Charles was leaning back on the sofa, one hand casually resting on his leg, his long, elegant fingers tapping rhythmically, exuding an air of laziness, until he looked up and met my gaze as I was coming down the stairs. "You look good." Charles never hesitated to compliment me. "Thank you." Then I just stood there awkwardly, my eyes fixed on him. Surely he doesn't expect me to make the first move and kiss him again. Charles seemed to understand the meaning in my eyes and stood up from the sofa. He was a full half-head taller than me, leaning in with such imposing presence that it made my little heart beat a bit faster, his tongue teasingly tangled with mine, instantly reminding me of the past. Harrison seemed to have done something like this before, but he was so rough. Then I gave him a set of meow punches. This time it felt good, at least I didn't dislike it, and it was helping Charles get into the groove. The little tongue was pushed to the corner and got a bit angry. It instantly sparked a fighting spirit, and I began to exchange blows with him. In the end, it was an even match, and both of us sat on the sofa, panting heavily. I nestled myself entirely on him and could hear Charles's heart beating very fast. Charles suddenly asked me, "Are you resistant to going out?" I didn't say anything, just looked at him. "It's my first time raising a cat, and I'm not sure about its taste preferences. Would you like to go to the supermarket with me? We can pick out some salmon and see what else can be made into dried fish snacks, dressed so nicely. Of course we should go out, and you can even choose your own salmon. It sounds so tempting just hearing about it." "All right, I'll go get the car and we can grab a meal outside." I nodded. "I can eat human food too. It's just that my favorite is still dried fish." Charles drove the car over and first took me to the restaurant for a meal. The restaurant he chose was nice, quiet and elegant. Most importantly, they had sashimi. "It's delicious." Charles tucked my hair behind my ear and said, "If it's not enough, I'll order more." I shook my head while eating. Suddenly, I heard Susan's angry voice from outside the private room. "Such a high-end neighborhood actually has stray cats. They ruined my nightgown." "It's just a nightgown, just buy a few more." Hearing Harrison's voice just brings bad luck. The sashimi in front of me doesn't even taste good anymore. Until the voice faded into the distance, Charles finally asked me, "Are you done eating?" I nodded. "Shall we go for a stroll?" "Sounds good. We shouldn't let those who make us unhappy stop us from doing things that bring us joy." Charles drove to a very large plaza nearby, but my nose is too sensitive, and the smells are too mixed, making me a bit overwhelmed. It stings my nose and makes me want to sneeze. We happened to pass by a boutique, and he went in to buy a mask for me to wear, which made me feel much better. As soon as we reached the seafood section, I got noticeably excited. Looking around here and there, it really felt like a cat that had fallen into a pile of fish. Charles pushed the cart with one hand and held my hand with the other. Strolling and picking things up, a very dramatic incident suddenly occurred. Charles and Harrison's hands simultaneously landed on the same piece of premium salmon. At that moment, I took a step back. Most of my body seemed to hide behind Charles. At this moment, Harrison was alone. He smiled slightly and said, "I heard Mr. Charles hasn't been to the company for several days. I'm surprised you have the leisure to come here. I have a talented team under me. The company won't go under just because I'm away for a few days. There's no need for President Harrison to worry." The moment Harrison let go, he decisively placed the salmon into his own shopping cart. Since when has Mr. Charles developed such a fondness for fish? Harrison's gaze swept over the cart but did not look at me. "This doesn't seem to have anything to do with Mr. Harrison, does it? Didn't Mr. Harrison also come to buy fish, since Mr. Charles already has so much fish in his cart? How about letting me have this piece of salmon? My kitten has been acting up these past few days." Standing behind Charles, I heard his words, lowered my eyes, and couldn't help but complain silently in my heart. "I'm standing right in front of you, and you still don't recognize me. Give your kitten back." "Sorry, but this fish looks really good, and our Nina seems to like it at first sight." Charles suddenly called out my name, and my head, which had been lowered, lifted again. It had been a long time since I last heard that name. How did Charles know? When I first arrived at Harrison's house, he would call me Mimi, and at that time, I couldn't transform into a human, so, after I turned into a human, I happily told him, my name, he said. Now that I'm the one taking care of you, of course, I'll call you whatever name I choose, although that makes sense. But a name, for a kitten, is a very precious gift. Then you could also choose a nice or unique one, out of 10 cats. 9 are called Mimi, but Harrison was very impatient with my request. Then from now on, I'll just call you H, okay. At the time, I didn't quite understand. When he was a cat, he seemed pretty normal too. You used to groom me and trim my nails. But now that I've turned into a human, it feels like everything has changed. Back then, I just sighed and silently kept that name in my heart. Later on, I came to realize, after turning into a human, I look a bit like Susan. So Harrison is always hot and cold, both restrained and distant yet deeply infatuated, a complete mess. The Harrison in front of me clearly froze when he heard that name. Charles had no intention of waiting for him to snap out of it and simply took my hand and walked away, even quickening his pace. He paid the bill and left directly. I followed Charles's steps until we were quite far away. Only then did I voice the question in my heart. Why did you call me Kitty? My name is clearly. Then do you still want to be called that name? His sudden counter-question left me stunned. Yes, should I still call him H? A little cat that lives in constant fear, never knowing whether Harrison will be cold or warm today. H, who tried so hard to please, only to end up losing his cat bed, his cat tree, and even his territory. I shook my head. A name is the vessel of memory. If changing a name means starting a new life, then I accept the new name you've given me. What a coincidence. The new name he chose is the same as my original name. It's not a new name, it's your original name. Charles seemed a bit impatient. Never mind, let's go home. His mood changes so quickly, being naturally sensitive to emotions. I don't like it when he hesitates to speak. Past experiences have made me inevitably act with a bit of caution. I'm afraid Charles might also turn cold like Harrison. Charles also seems to be an expert at reading emotions, realizing my unease. He immediately said to me, let's go back, eat some fish, and I'll explain everything to you. Okay. My eyes, wide with tension, gradually relaxed, though a hint of caution still remained. After spending a few hours outside, I realized it was better to come back. It's really strange. Although I had only been staying at Charles's place for a few days, I felt surprisingly at ease. Charles first sliced the salmon he had snatched from Harrison. Meanwhile, I leaned my upper body entirely on the counter, propping my chin with one hand, seemingly admiring his smooth knife skills, but actually secretly observing whether his expression would suddenly change. Charles glanced at me and suddenly spoke while cutting the fish, so eager. Then I'll start from the beginning. Upon hearing this, his ears immediately twitched. Great, great. I love listening to stories the most. Charles said there was a young man. As for his parents, his father has his own children, and his mother has her own children. And he was just the task to be completed. In high school, he was kidnapped. A cliched beginning to the story. His parents couldn't be bothered with their son, and the kidnapper, furious, vented all their anger on the teenager, beating him until he was covered in bruises. He even planned to cut off one of his fingers to panic his parents. Just as the boy's finger was about to be cut off, a calico cat descended from the sky. Each of them got a swipe from the cat's paw, in front of the boy. It displayed astonishing martial prowess, forcefully driving the two thugs to flee in panic. You're tied up like a dead fish, the calico cat spoke while wiping its paws on his clothes, even muttering to itself, I came all the way to this wilderness, and yet a human still ruins my plans. Nina, it seems I truly can't escape this fate. Human, I helped you, so you have to help me too. The calico cat gnawed through the boy's ropes and signaled for him to follow. The cat found another secluded spot and earnestly instructed, you see, since I can talk, you know I'm no ordinary cat. I'm trying hard to transform into a human form now. No one can disturb me, and I must not get any blood on me, understand? It seems the little kitten got blood on it. The story is so ironic. The more you fear something, the more likely it is to happen. I ate most of the sashimi he had prepared and finally couldn't help but share my thoughts. Yes, Charles said, his eyes lowered and his voice deep. The kidnappers found me before the police did. I was afraid they would cause harm, so I tried to escape, but with my injuries, I couldn't run fast. When they beat me, my blood must have splattered onto it. Charles said that the kidnappers seemed intent on killing him, and their actions were extremely brutal. He himself also thought he was going to die. but after losing consciousness, he felt a light appear before his eyes, although I woke up in the hospital. I knew it was the calico cat that saved me. It gave up the chance to become an adult and saved me. It lost its memory and has been wandering around, still carrying its wounds. At this point, if the clever little cat still didn't understand, it would be a fool. Was I really that great? But then again, I couldn't just stand by and watch a life fade away before my eyes. But how did you know? If it's really as he said, then who told him that I lost my memory and was wandering around injured? Charles did not answer this question, but I'm a clever cat. I immediately grasped the key point. So, you can't perceive emotions. Is that to understand the full picture of things? Or is it to find me? Have you humans advanced enough to be in this line of work? Humans are such an involutionary species. I'm telling you all this openly just to let you know that with me, you don't have to be cautious. You can be confident, even spoiled and willful. After all, you're the lifesaver cat who fell from the sky to rescue me. He actually sensed it. Isn't he supposed to be unable to perceive emotions? You really can't sense emotions. Then how do you always manage to perceive my emotional changes so accurately? Because all these years, I've been observing and reading people like this. He raised his hand and ruffled my hair. Somehow, I felt a sudden surge of bitterness deep in my heart, but that bitterness only lasted for a second, because I suddenly remembered him saying he had secretly watched me. So you were peeping at me like a stalker. I leaned closer to him, staring into his eyes and asked, admit it. Have you been wanting to steal me away for a long time? Charles froze for a moment, a flicker of being seen through flashing quickly in his eyes. A smile then appeared. He also leaned a bit closer in my direction, allowing me to clearly see the madness he had hidden for so long. Indeed, nothing can escape the notice of the cat lord. So, can you slowly open your heart and try to accept your devoted follower? I will do better. He slowly raised my hand and placed a fervent kiss on the back of it. Somehow, the back of my hand feels so hot. It's so hot that I want to dance around and shake off that burning sensation. Well, it depends on your performance. The heat on the back of my hand seems to climb up my arm, quickly spreading to my entire face. I had to bury my head and finish the rest of the salmon I was snacking on to hide my current embarrassment. After finishing the salmon, I still felt my body temperature was quite high. I should just go upstairs and turn back into a cat. At least my fur can cover up my current situation quite well. It's great that Charles didn't follow into the room. I stared at the ceiling, rolling around on the bed. How could I just casually kiss a kitten's paw? So annoying. After finally calming down, I noticed many loose hairs from my body scattered all over the blanket. My heart immediately sank, and a fear of being scolded again surged within me. After turning into human form, I went everywhere looking for a lint roller. Suddenly, at a certain moment, I remembered, this is no longer the Harrison family. When I sat back on the bed, it was hard to describe what that feeling was like. I opened the door to my room and found Charles right across the hall in the study. He was sitting in front of the computer, and the sound of his keyboard clicking stopped immediately when he saw me. What's wrong? Do you have a lint roller? There's a lot of fuzz on the bed. I looked at him with a mix of anxiety and hesitation, glancing at him briefly before looking away, then couldn't help but glance back again. I was worried he might scold me, but Charles was very calm. He just said, I have it prepared. Wait for me to get it for you. I nodded and couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. After getting the item, I said thank you to him, then I hurried back to deal with the furry situation. While rolling the fur ball, I was lost in thought, but after I finished rolling, a cat teaser suddenly appeared before my eyes. The feathers on it were colorful, and my gaze couldn't help but follow its movement. While my hands felt irresistibly itchy, I immediately turned back into a cat and began pouncing at the teaser. The joy of a kitten is just that simple. Caught the feather, but the feather escaped again, and it leaped up and caught the feather once more. After a few rounds, all the worries were completely forgotten. Thank you for playing with me. After instantly turning back into human form, she ran to Charles, who was sitting by the bed, and kissed him on the cheek. He rubbed my face with the back of his hand. Nina has rolled all the fluff off. So good, this is Nina's reward. As he spoke, he suddenly stood up and gave me a kiss. Between the compliments and the kisses, I was left feeling a bit flustered. It's only natural for me to clean up since I shed so much. That's still amazing. What other kitten in the world would clean up their own fur? Only our Nina. Don't be upset. You did a great job, really. Before, Harrison always said it was what I should do. Since I shed so much, there is a behavior that we humans call desensitization. Your current behavior is merely a physical instinct of fear and obedience to the actions Harrison has designated. But as long as a new behavior emerges and you keep repeating it, soon you will no longer feel anxious or fearful because of the old behavioral rules. Desensitization. Next time you see shedding, when you use the lint roller, it won't be panic you feel, but the thought of a reward. Hearing Charles say these things made me feel a lot better. It was as if the heavy stone pressing on my chest had suddenly been lifted. Charles has been working from home for a long time and is finally going back to the office. Before leaving, he asked me for a kiss. "I'll finish work early today and take you somewhere," he said it mysteriously, with a sense of anticipation. I nodded at him, waved, and watched him leave. After closing the door, I was alone again, but during this time, with Charles accompanying me, I've come to see this place as my new territory and no longer feel resistant to it. Besides, it's a villa in the same residential area, and the houses are quite similar, just with different interior designs. I first transformed into a cat and patrolled my new territory, then climbed up and down the newly installed cat tree, and finally settled into the transparent, concave round bed, facing the window. While enjoying the view, I slowly drifted off to sleep. It felt like I had returned to the way I was when I first became a cat, without the anxiety of having to clean up my own fur. I didn't have to worry about the villa's owner being overly particular about cleanliness, constantly keeping the house spotless. After a good night's sleep, I happily scrolled through videos on the phone Charles had prepared, laughing out loud. Hearing the sound of a car horn at the door, I looked out the window and saw Charles's car. Only then did I put on my mask and go downstairs. The sun was blazing brightly at that moment. "Looks like you're off work early. Where are you taking me?" So mysterious. But then the car stopped at the police station. The moment I saw that blue building, I felt inexplicably nervous. You're not going to turn me over to the authorities, are you? What do you mean by lifesaver cat? Is it just to keep me calm? There is something very important in human society, and I hope Nina can have it too, which is why I brought you here. What? An ID card? Many animals, after cultivating into human form, they need to receive recognition from humans, just like how a weasel seeks validation. But now, with the times progressing, gaining recognition from the great blue power, how could that not be considered a form of human acknowledgement? Charles took me to take photos, expedited the process, filled out the forms, and paid the fees. After leaving, I still felt a bit dazed. Why did you think of bringing me to do this? Because with this, there are many things we can do. Charles rubbed my head and took my hand. "Let's go. We're going to the supermarket." Holding my hand and going to the supermarket is also one of Charles's favorite activities. Even though there are dedicated people delivering many ingredients to the house, he just loves dragging me to the supermarket. He says it's one of the most enjoyable human activities and the best place to experience emotions. So every now and then, he pulls me out for a stroll. We often run into talkative strangers. Charles always says coolly, "This is my girlfriend." Then he would receive sincere words from strangers, such as, "You two are such a perfect match," or the unspoken emotions conveyed through their eyes. Although every time, I can't help but think at that moment, he's so pretentious. But honestly, this place really does feel like a venue brimming with emotion. The day I received my ID card, I held it in my hands with sheer delight, examining it carefully. This was my proof of identity in human society, but when I saw the photo, I couldn't help but frown. I look a bit ugly in this photo. Not ugly at all, even a casual shot makes our Nina look good. I pouted and handed him my ID card. "Help me put it away safely. Anyway, every time I go out, I'm with him. If I really need it, I can just ask him." Just got off the car and was about to walk home when I suddenly heard a sound. Hey, I heard it, but my footsteps only paused for a moment before I continued walking forward. The man behind me probably didn't expect that I wouldn't turn around. He called out again, this time with anger, even taking large strides as his footsteps hurried toward me. "Has your heart grown wild too? Do you know how long I've been looking for you?" I used to be particularly sensitive to the changes in Harrison's tone, especially when he spoke in such a stern manner. I always feel as if my heart is being squeezed by a large hand, making it hard to breathe. And even my ears become like airplane ears. But now, aside from that initial sudden thump of my heart, there are no extra sensations. This is probably what Charles meant by desensitization. I shook off his hand. "I'm sorry, you're not going to say I've mistaken you for someone else, are you? Don't pull such a cheap trick. You've been running wild out there and forgotten where home is and who your master is." Although Harrison did look somewhat disheveled, His tone was still as aggressive as ever, as if he were saying that someone of his status had stooped so low, and yet I still didn't appreciate it. What I want to say is, you were the one who told me to leave, and you even threw me into a puddle, saying I was some stray cat who didn't know where I came from. You have the nerve to show off in front of girls, and yet you still have the audacity to say you're looking for me, twisting the facts, shifting blame, distorting the truth. Charles calls this PUA. How long have you been away, and what bad habits have you picked up? Sharp-tongued and full of, only those who can't take advantage resort to malicious words to cover up their incompetence, making others fall into the distress of self-doubt. A little kitten doesn't need to doubt herself. You're just malicious at heart. Watching Harrison's face change colors, his lips trembling as if he wanted to say something but didn't know what. The pent-up anger in my heart finally dissipated quite a bit. The little kitten has no culture, so it can only use the most straightforward words to describe its current feelings. Awesome, Nina is amazing. Upon hearing Charles's praise, a smile immediately appeared on my face. If it weren't for the fact that a skirt makes it hard to wag a tail, I'd probably be wagging mine too. The car didn't make it to the garage. It stalled in the yard. Charles only came over now, probably to give me some space to handle things. If it's because of Susan, I won't let her come here anymore. Okay, I've taken care of you for 3 years. Can 3 years of feelings not compare to the 1 month you spent at someone else's house? What he said is so infuriating. After reading his expression, I can tell he's the kind of guy who would demand all the money spent during the relationship back after a breakup. What a turn-off. It's a pity I've spent too much time being a decent person and can't bring myself to say anything too harsh. I can only stomp my feet in anger right where I am. So angry, I really want to go wipe my butt on his pillow again. Sorry, but Charles is not an outsider. We've already picked a date and are going to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get our marriage certificate. Harrison laughed scornfully as if he had heard a joke. Charles, I used to consider you a rival. But now you're giving up the position of Mrs. Charles just to compete with me over a cat. Have you lost your mind? Do you think getting a certificate with a cat will hurt me? Charles looked him up and down. 3 years ago, when you accidentally brought Nina home, I had someone come to take her back. At the time, Mr. Harrison's attitude was that you really liked her. You even carried her to work in a cat carrier and took meticulous care of her. He said that Nina had everything other cats had, and he wouldn't agree to any conditions unless she left on her own. You say you see me as a rival, so you must know I've been looking for it all along. Over the past 3 years, because of Nina, how many interests has Charles Group conceded? You know that very well. Charles took a step forward. Did you come here today to actually look for the kitten, or because you realize that starting this month, Charles Group is no longer making concessions? You really must have lost your mind. Do you think Harrison Group needs your charity and concessions? The fact that I've been able to compete with you these past 3 years is entirely due to my own ability. Harrison's hysterical screaming and shouting really resembles a monkey jumping up and down. If what Charles said is true, that would be truly despicable. Since Harrison is always so capable, let's see his true skills in the business world. Leave my house now. The conversation had reached this point, and Harrison's face turned pale and then flushed with anger. The gaze fell on me again. I'm asking you one last time, are you really not going back? Don't be fooled by a few sweet words from some man out there. Do you really think he'll marry you? Charles's life decisions are not for anyone in the Charles family to question. But you, Harrison, are different. I was even more direct. I pulled the ID card I had just obtained from Charles's pocket and practically shoved it in his face, declaring loudly, look closely, my name is Nina, get lost. Since Mr. Charles is so fond of my cat and refuses to return it, how about the Charles family withdrawing from the West City project to cover the cost of Mr. Harrison's cat expenses over the past 3 years? You are simply... I was so furious that I almost rushed forward to give him a set of meow punches, but Charles stopped me. Harrison, you keep talking about the cat left and right, so, do you have any evidence to prove that Charles is keeping your cat? The West City project is a matter of capability. If you have what it takes, go ahead and call the police. As long as you can prove that your cat is here. Harrison only left one remark, just wait and see. Then he left. The moment he left, Charles still prioritized comforting me first. We shouldn't get angry with someone like him, it's not worth it. But I still kept my head down, my voice tinged with frustration. Did you really go easy on him all this time because of me? Charles didn't speak. You're so silly. Why didn't you come find me? Why didn't you tell me? You saved my life. Doing something for you is, before Charles could finish his sentence, I had already rushed into his arms like a little cannonball and hugged him tightly. Charles is a big idiot. Charles patted my back again and again. Let's move. It's so unlucky to live in the same neighborhood as someone like that. I don't want to see him anymore. You threw me out yourself, and now you want someone to settle the 3-year bill. How low can you go? A piece of trash like him. Anyone with eyes wouldn't work with him. I still can't curse fluently in human language, so I just meowed at him in cat talk for a long time instead. That's just the way it is. The Charles Group has indeed secured the project in the west of the city. At the partnership dinner, Charles even asked me if I would be willing to be his +1. He had never taken me to such a formal occasion before. I agreed, but I never expected Harrison to show up uninvited. He even brought Susan along. By the time Charles and I arrived, he seemed to be subtly pushing Susan into the man's arms, but the man in the white suit made it very clear that he was not interested. I could see that even with her flawless makeup, Susan couldn't hide her displeased expression. Bullying a cat and a girl, what a complete and utter scumbag. I dashed forward in a flash and threw a flurry of cat punches at him. Scumbag, a girl isn't a tool for you to climb the social ladder or trade for benefits. Someone like you, thinking others would want to work with you. Anyone making an honest living wouldn't give you the time of day, and those who aren't making an honest living, even if they do, will go bankrupt soon enough. What do you know about matters between men? You're just a cat that turned into a human. Harrison sneered without restraint in front of everyone, his face full of disdain. Harrison is drunk and starting to talk nonsense. Today is the partnership banquet between the Charles and Chandler companies. Hurry up and escort Harrison out, the man in white said decisively. As soon as he finished speaking, 2 bodyguards in black immediately stepped forward. Harrison knew his plan had failed, but being a man who valued his pride, he straightened his suit and fixed his gaze directly on Susan, calling out coldly and sharply, "Susan." I was still holding Susan's hand and could clearly feel her body tremble suddenly, as if she was both startled and afraid, wanting to walk back to Harrison's side. "No need to go over, you're a free person, not some little kitten dependent on him. Besides, even a kitten would run away from trash like him who loves using PUA tactics." Susan glanced at me, twitched the corner of her mouth, and a glimmer of light seemed to flash in her eyes, but under Harrison's urging, she returned to her numb state. Somehow, seeing Susan like this reminded me of my own timid self when I first arrived at Charles's house. Many details of daily life, once they resurface, can make one as frightened as a startled bird. A voice inside me says, "I can't let Susan go with him. Don't be afraid of him. If you don't want to go with him, you don't have to. It's just a bad relationship with a scumbag. No need to throw your whole life away. The girl before me might need a little bit of courage. She might not have it, but I can lend her some." The hand holding her arm transmitted a trace of feline strength to her, calming her restless heart. Her agitated breathing gradually settled into a steady rhythm. Harrison was getting impatient and wanted to come over to pull her away, but he was stopped by the 2 bodyguards. "Harrison, I want to break up with you." "What did you say, Susan? Say it again." "I said, I want to break up with you. If it weren't for you seducing me after returning to the country, would I have ended up in this situation? Now you want to break up with me? I don't agree." Susan laughed. "When I first returned, it was because there happened to be a collaboration project to discuss. We did have a few meals together, just old friends catching up. Didn't you tell me you were single? And weren't your friends all saying how you'd been waiting for me all these years? Now you're saying I seduced you. That's really despicable." Originally, it was a preliminary cooperation dinner, but the biggest buzz at the moment wasn't the collaboration between the 2 companies. It was the scandal sparked by Harrison himself. He was once the golden boy. How could he bear so many people pointing fingers at him? Hurry up and help President Harrison downstairs. When he sobers up, remember to tell him the good news. He's a single man again. That person in the white suit really knows how to twist the knife. I could feel Susan's strength drain away in an instant as she murmured to herself, "Was I wrong?" I quickly reached out and gently patted Susan's shoulder to comfort her. "You weren't wrong. It wasn't a mistake for you to go abroad to study back then. Opportunities for girls are already scarce, and you shouldn't have to give up on yourself for others. After you returned, you happened to meet a man whom everyone said had waited for you for many years. It's only natural to be moved. As long as you discovered his true nature before marriage, it's actually a great thing." Susan's eyes couldn't help but redden. "Thank you, you're welcome. It's the truth. And he has terrible character. A scumbag who betrays girls and will never make money in his life." By the way, if he comes back later begging for forgiveness or saying things like, for the sake of our relationship, don't you dare soften and respond. If you ignore him for more than a minute, he'll immediately show his true, ugly colors. Susan smiled, but soon, she started sneezing uncontrollably and couldn't say anything else. I quickly kept my distance from her and pulled Charles away as well. Susan is allergic to cat fur, so I'm afraid I'll have to trouble you with this. I looked at the person in the white suit and asked him to step forward and check on the situation. Charles's suit probably has some cat hair on it, so it's not convenient to get too close. Is Miss Susan allergic to mouse hair? What's with the white suit? That came out of nowhere. No, it's fine. Susan waved her hand dismissively. After keeping my distance, I seemed to feel a bit better. Thank you. I know. Susan smiled slightly. The world really can't do without cats. Soon. Susan's partner arrived at the scene and took her away. The man in the white suit stepped forward and smiled slightly. I haven't formally introduced myself yet. I'm Chandler. Hello, Nina. I greeted him warmly as well. But why do you have a faint scent of a mouse on you? He paused for a moment, then smiled. Because I have a little mouse at home. I suddenly understood. The mouse immortal, capable of foreseeing the future and understanding divination. No wonder Charles knew about my affairs. But having a mouse calculate matters related to a cat, that's a bit too much to ask of the mouse. Harrison's stock experienced significant volatility due to Harrison's actions. He is now starting to let go of his pride, moving away from the persona of longing for a past love, and shifting to Harrison's persona of going crazy to find a cat. Unfortunately, he can't bother me anymore because we moved. And Harrison can't win me back by using the cat to pressure Charles. Life has been very tough. And it's said that the only remaining purpose is to contribute to the family through marriage of convenience and having children. Upon hearing his outcome, I just clicked my tongue a few times. I continued munching on salmon while using my paw to flip pages on my phone to read the novel. I was thoroughly engrossed in it. The phone was snatched away. What are you doing? I was just getting to the good part. The cat's eyes widened, its glass bead-like eyes full of accusation. Charles glanced at the content on the phone and, not only that, actually read it out loud. He wept bitterly, full of regret, just to beg me to come back to him. So awkward. The cat couldn't help but lower its head, scratching the ground in embarrassment. Charles actually kept going. Stop, stop, stop. Watching is one thing, but reading it aloud is another. Taking him by surprise, I pounced into his arms, turned back into human form, snatched the phone, and quickly turned off the screen. But Charles's lips were right by my ear, his tone tinged with jealousy as he asked, "You've been reading so many, chasing the wife to the crematorium, stories lately. Could it be you're still thinking about Harrison? Just thinking about Harrison reciting those lines like in the novel gives me the creeps. Yuck, so cringy." I turned around and gave Charles a kiss. I don't even want to think about him. The kitty already has the best follower in the whole world. The corners of Charles's mouth lifted slightly, but it was clear he was trying hard to suppress it. But the follower has no name or status, which is a bit sad. How could that be? I stood on tiptoe and leaned close to his ear, speaking in a soft, sweet voice. "You're in the kitty's heart." Charles's Adam's apple bobbed slightly, and his hand tightened around my waist. My legs felt a little weak, after transforming into a human. The kitty can control her heat cycle very well. She only feels the urge when she feels safe, free, happy, and in love. During the 3 years at Harrison's house, I never felt this way. Every time he tried to get handsy, all he got in return were cat-like punches. After hearing what I had to say, Charles immediately took me to the Civil Affairs Bureau to get our marriage certificate. In a daze, I saw the newly acquired red booklet and ID card in my hand. Belatedly, I asked him, Did you have ulterior motives when you took me to get my ID card earlier?" "Oh no, the little kitten has fallen into the human's trap." Charles just kissed the corner of my mouth, smiling as if it cost nothing. "Be good, we can go back and have kittens now." After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.